Catherine's story, The Little Girl. How did it start? When Catherine was about 2.5, she liked me to tell her stories. Never being at a loss for words, I jumped right in. I started telling her about the little girl and her brother and the things they did with their mommy and daddy. Of course, there was a dog in the story that looked just like Lobo, and a cat that was a golden color. Catherine requested that. The type of story has a specific ending. I think about something and then just start talking about it. I especially like to tell a story about something that the children have done recently. An example would be if Aaron told me they went to the zoo, the story would be about a trip to the zoo and the different animals. I have included a list of some of the various things we talk about to make a story. Also, there are never any specific names. Catherine is just called the little girl, and of course Patrick is the little boy. Around a month before Madeline was born, I paid a visit to the McNamara's. They were living in an apartment at the time, while their house was being built. I remember sitting on the couch. The little girl and the little boy and I were telling a new story about the mommy was going to have a baby, and the children were very excited. I turned to Catherine and asked her if she thought the baby would be a girl or a boy, and she answered, twins, a boy and a girl. So the story continued with the addition of little twins. I'm not sure if Catherine realized for a while I told this little story that she was the little girl. I believe she knows that now. I have included a short story so you can see how this works. It's a great way to keep the story going, and the children are fascinated that the things that the little girl and boy have done are just something that they did. In years to come, whoever is telling this story can use your imagination. Just pick a topic. When working on a story and outline, I remember that every time I tell it, I always start with the word well. I have no idea why. It's just a start. So here's an example. Fishing with Daddy. Well, the little girl and the little boy were very excited. Daddy was taking them fishing. Down the road from their house was a small creek that was loaded with fish. The little girl and boy liked to fish, and they always tried to catch the biggest fish. Daddy taught them all about baiting the hook, and they were using worms. Their GiGi said she did not like worms and would never be able to fish. She just liked to eat the fish after they were cleaned and fried. Mommy was staying home with the twins. They were planning a nice dinner to go with the fish. Of course, there would be mac and cheese, the little boy's favorite, and a big salad. Mommy made yummy salads. French fries and fish would be good also. Mommy knew that they should catch some fish. She said the twins made brownies for dessert. Meanwhile, Daddy and the two older children arrived at the creek. It was just a short walk from their house. It was a warm day, so the Daddy let them take their shoes off to wade in the water. He reminded them not to scare the fish away. The little girl was the first to get her fishing pole ready. She was not squeamish about the worms. She sat on the bank on a big stone and started to dangle the line in the water. The little boy was sitting down next to her when she yelled out was excited. "I've got a bite!" Their Daddy took over, and sure enough, she did. He stood behind her as she brought it in. "Wow," everyone said. It was a very large fish. The little girl had a grin from ear to ear. It was the biggest fish she had ever caught. Daddy said it must be her lucky day. The little boy was hoping he could catch a fish also. The Daddy fixed them all a cold drink, and they settled down for some serious fishing. Just a short time later, the little boy and Daddy each caught their own fish, not as large as the little girl's, but good enough to have for dinner that night. As the afternoon was coming to a close, the Daddy said they should start for home. He wanted to clean the fish for supper. It was going to be a fun evening. The little girl had caught 3 fish, but one of them was the biggest of all. The little boy caught 4 fish, and they were good size, but not as big as the little girl's. The Daddy had caught 3 fish, so they would have plenty to eat. Yum! They could hardly wait. So they headed up to the road to the home. Daddy started cleaning the fish, and the little girl and boy went inside to clean up and wash worm guts off their hands. Mommy laughed at them as they chased the twins around with their dirty hands, pretending they were going to touch them. The twins were too young to fish, but they liked to play the dirty hands chase game. They were a happy, loving family. Soon Daddy came in and Mommy fried up the fish and fries. The children set the table. Daddy washed up. He had worm guts too. And then they sat down to dinner and thanked God for a wonderful meal. The little girl thanked God that she caught the biggest fish. After dinner, they sat around the table and played cards. The twin girl was sitting on Daddy's lap, and she was getting sleepy. The Mommy and Daddy took their dear children up to bed and tucked them in. They said their night prayers and fell asleep very quick. But the little girl whispered to her Mommy and Daddy to come closer to the bed. She had something to tell them. The little girl whispered as they leaned down and smiled at her, "Thanks for giving me such a fun day. I love you both." Then she turned over and went fast asleep. Like I said before, just think about something that happens to the children's life and then start telling a story. I have been to the McNamara's home many times, and I love their tradition of putting the children to bed at night. The night prayers are beautiful, and there is a lot of love between them. My daughter Erin and my son-in-law Tim are great parents. Remember, use your imagination. Here are a couple of ideas for stories: going to the zoo, a visit to GiGi, camping with the family, dance class and gymnastics, bike rides, and racing for a ribbon. Unless you become like children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 18:3. That's from the Bible.